All right, good afternoon. I see everyone is piling in here, and welcome to this week's MSP Success webinar. And I'm real happy to have Mike Hanauer, the Chief Revenue Officer from Skout Cybersecurity. And Mike, I think what Chief Revenue Officer means is that you know how to sell here, and that's what we're talking about here. That's what that's code for with it, is that you know how to sell. And pretty cool webinar that we've put together today. I know we've got a ton of people registered for this here around closing high dollar cybersecurity contracts. And Mike, I'm going to turn it directly over to you, and I'll be here for questions for everyone. But I want to give you the full hour here to be able to lay out this proven sales blueprint for selling high dollar cybersecurity contracts. So Mike, take it away.
Great. I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for the intro here. Yeah, and I wanted to cover this topic today with the team over at Robin Robbins. If you look back, you look at every MSP survey that's out there, whether it's from the big players like Datto or Continuum or Kaseya or ConnectWise, they all ask, what's your biggest challenge as an MSP? And the result is always that the top two are cybersecurity and sales and marketing. So my goal here is to help the group here tackle those top two challenges from a sales and marketing perspective, as well as cybersecurity. And what a lot of people don't know about Datto is, or about Skout, sorry, I was just mentioning Datto. What a lot of people don't know about Skout is that Skout started as a direct business and was selling directly to medium-sized enterprises. And what happened during that time was that Skout discovered that all of these medium-sized businesses, when we were going in for a sale, they were bringing in their managed service provider, and their managed service provider was a part of the sale. So Skout evolved into a channel-only company. But what we learned was our first 150 customers, we brought them on direct, and we brought them on through a proven sales methodology that was developed over a few years. So the methodology, which was developed by our CEO, who's unfortunately on vacation, he'd probably do a better job here than I would. But it led to not only higher sales volume and a higher close ratio, but it led to higher sales. So I want to share that with the team today. And then at the end, I'll answer any questions. And then if anybody wants a customized deck that will help in your cybersecurity sales, we're happy to provide that as well.
Yeah, and I'll just make a quick note here that if anyone has any questions, then make sure to post them in the Q&A that you'll see there on your screen with it. And as Mike just said, we'll make sure that we get those answered here on the second half of the call.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So why is security a difficult thing to sell? And it revolves around education, and it's a two-step process. So it sounds easy, just accomplish these two things, but it's actually really, really difficult to do. So I'm gonna help the group here get to these 2 points. And the first thing is to get the end customer to agree that cybersecurity is a problem for them. And secondly, you want them to agree that your MSP is the solution to that problem. So again, sounds simple, but it's a bit more difficult to do than it sounds. So first off here, we have the warm-up. You don't want to go in and jump right into your pitch. I know everybody here is very well versed in technology, so it's difficult to not go right into the technology, but it's important here to build rapport. And if anybody on this call is in sales, they understand the trust ladder, and the trust ladder is working your way up and building more trust. And a good example of that is if you needed a recommendation for a car, you would trust your parents more than you would trust a random person on Facebook recommending a car. So you want to climb that trust ladder, and there's a lot of great tools that you can use that are really easy to do. You can use LinkedIn, you can use Google. I took a quick 5 minutes before this call. I knew Jeff was going to be on this call, so I took a look through his LinkedIn, and I know he knows Vince Tinarello and Frank Ballator, who I've done a ton of work with in the past. He used to work he used to work at CMIT. I've also done some work with them. And probably what I would use to build rapport with Jeff is that he follows Robert Herjavec and Kevin O'Leary on LinkedIn. And Skout actually has a guest shark named Matt Higgins who sits on our board. So I could use that to sort of build rapport with him, start a conversation about Shark Tank. But the important thing here is you want to get them talking about themselves. You want to use the 80-20 rule. You hear that a lot in business talk about 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers. But the focus here is that you want them talking 80% of the time. And my dad had a saying that I'm sure he didn't invent himself, but you were given 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them proportionately. So I like to use that sort of methodology when I'm diving into a warm-up or a pitch. So use that research to your advantage. Did you go to the same school? Did your cousin go there? Sports teams, do you know where they're from? Anything about them? And then in particular with customers that you've worked with in the past, you want to show them that you care about them, checking in on things they've mentioned. Make sure you write those things down. Do they have a kid that's just starting kindergarten this year? Do they have a kid that went to college? Do you know that their parents go on vacation to a certain place every year? Find anything to build a stronger relationship there. And what you want to do then, once you've built rapport, is start to talk about the cyber landscape. And this is where we get into the education aspect of it. So everybody here on the call knows that there's a huge gap in cybersecurity talent across the globe. So there's about 4 million open jobs around the world, specifically in cybersecurity. And most people understand that. They understand that there's a lack of talent, but they don't understand what that lack of talent means. And that the lack of talent means there's a lack of people who can communicate cyber risk. And because of that, there's a lack of people who understand how vulnerable they are. So again, this dives back into the education and making sure that they understand what this lack of cybersecurity talent means. So then you want to go into the cybersecurity landscape, and this is a slide that a lot of Skout's partners use, and everybody here is familiar with these types of statistics, going from 2000 to 2021, going from desktops and laptops to Internet of Everything, the amount of data being stored. I read a statistic recently that more data has been created in the last 2 years than has been created in the history of mankind. And I'm sure a lot of that is YouTube videos and Instagram pictures, but still, there's a ton of data being created, and that's just increasing the vulnerabilities across the threat landscape. And finally, the threat surface has expanded, specifically with moving to Internet of Things. And I'm very close with the CEO of a technology company that I used to have a previous relationship with. I won't mention any names here, but obviously, tech CEO, he understands technology. His home was very smart, if you will, with smart thermostats and humidifiers and technology everywhere. And what happened was there was an ex-employee who was a bit disgruntled, and he was trying to get into the network. And this CEO had a deep water dock that he had a camera on, and that he used that camera to watch storms. But this ex-employee found that was the one place that he didn't have good security on. Got in through the camera, got into the rest of the network. Didn't do anything malicious. Just turned up the temperature in his house and turned off the dehumidifier, so he came home to a hot house and sweaty walls. But even very, very smart, very intelligent people that understand technology, they can be susceptible if they're not looking at the entire threat surface. So the result's been that the technology that's being created is actually chasing the bad actors. So the bad actors are actually getting ahead of the technology. Those new threats require new technology, and that new technology evolves into even more threats. So next up in your pitch is you want to get an overview of their business, and this is a bit more difficult in customers that you've worked with for 5-10 years, because you probably know the answer to a lot of these questions. But in the particular landscape right now, with COVID and people shifting to working from home, it gives you an opportunity to dive in again and really understand what motivates them. So just get a brief overview of the business. Stress, it's important for you to hear them again, even if it's an existing customer, so you know what's important. And again, you can use the COVID excuse to do discovery here. So ask follow-up questions, follow up about compliancy standards, but this is the most important aspect of a cybersecurity pitch, is the discovery. So you want to ask some very detailed and very pointed questions, and this is where you get to point one, is getting them to admit that cybersecurity is a problem for them. And a really great question here is asking them what data is most important to you. And they may come back with things like my client's financial information or HIPAA information, whatever it may be. But keep digging deeper on that and ask them. So once they tell you what data is most important to them, ask them who has access to it. And then ask them where is it stored and who has access to the machine that it's stored on. And how does that data travel around the network? And when you bring in new data that's important data to you, who has access to that information at the time? And a great example of this is car dealerships. Car dealerships are collecting social security number, financial information, W-2s. They have a lot of critical data. And what they don't realize is that, hey, if I'm storing all this on this secure server, what they don't realize is all that information is getting input on the computers by individual salespeople. So they don't necessarily realize that this critical information, there's a lot more people that have access to it than do. So than they think, rather. So what you want to get to is you want to give them a light bulb moment, and at that point is when you ask, so would you agree that cybersecurity is a problem for you? So once you get the yes out of them, and don't move forward until you do, because the rest of your pitch is irrelevant if they don't think they have a problem. Next, you're going to dive into an overview of your own company. And this is an example slide for us. So this is our executive team here. You got myself, Aidan, our CEO, Jasvin, who has a history in cybersecurity at some major firms. And then Don and I have a ton of channel experience over the last 10 years. So the purpose here is that you want to establish trust. You want to tell them about your company, and we can help you build your own slide here. So next, you're going to want to dive into a little bit more about your company, but simplify your messaging. So what Skout does here is we have a what we do, what's the problem we solve, how do we differentiate, and why MSPs partner with us. So it's a really important slide to orient the customer around the problem that you're trying to solve. So once they've given the overview of their company, you've given the overview of your company, you can start into a bit further discovery, so you can go into your sales pitch with more information. So what we recommend doing here is a cyber health checkup, and you can do this with your existing customers. You can do this with prospects, but you're going to dive into exactly what they're doing for endpoint and give them a score of a 1 to 3 on each, with endpoint, email protection, single sign-on, firewalls, backup, patch management, training, password policy. There's a whole bunch of things in here. But what it's going to do at the end is it's going to spit out a score, and putting a number to something makes it very real for end customers. So what we actually see MSPs doing with this is they'll take that score and they'll set thresholds for themselves, and they'll say, okay, if you score above an 80, we'll give you a 5% discount off of all of your other services, because we know that we're not going to have any security issues with you. If they score below a 70 or a 65 or a 60, however you set the threshold, then you're going to outline for them what they're vulnerable to. And you're going to ask them to sign a waiver that if they're not going to get above this certain score, that you clearly outline, these are the things that we are not liable for because you chose not to take our advice. But at this point, what you'll do is you'll go through the rubric, you'll understand exactly what they're doing from a security perspective, and then you can move on. So what you can explain here is that 99.99% of all attacks are similar, and they're trying to do one of 3 things. And this is what we call the cybersecurity CIA. I'm sure it's been said before. You've heard it other places as well. But what you want to do with a cybersecurity solution is you want to protect the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of your data. And the reason for that is that attackers are trying to do one of three things. They're trying to steal your identity, which is affecting confidentiality of information. They're trying to execute a malicious file, which is affecting the integrity of that data. Or they're trying to deliver a denial of service attack, which is affecting the availability of your data. So then we dive into recommended cyber hygiene. And this is for small and medium businesses and managed service providers. And we actually, we see a lot of MSPs doing this as a printout and a leave behind for their end customers. So first of all, we talked about this earlier, establishing what you want to protect the most. You told me earlier that, that it's your customer's financial data. And then you go further into the data and systems that you care about. And from there, step two is you want to build concentric rings of security around that data. And a lot of people call this the cyber kill chain, but it's essentially protecting all of the layers that surround that important data that you need. Third, you have to know if you have a problem, and that's why monitoring your network is essential. And it's important here is you cannot know without monitoring if you have a problem. So we've seen instances where we started monitoring a customer, and they didn't know through business email compromise that there'd been an attacker sitting on their network for 3 or 4 months, gathering information on when wire transfers happen and planning out an attack. So without monitoring your network, you're not going to know if you truly have a problem. And people will say that that I don't need cybersecurity. I've never had an attack. I'm not a target. But there's no way to know if you've been attacked. All you have, you just haven't seen the impact of that attack yet in some cases. 4 here is you have to take response time down, the difference between a problem getting public or not. If there is a breach of a system or a ransomware attack, if that can be cleaned up within 30 minutes or so, it's the difference between it going public or not. And a lot of the times when you hear about these with, for example, the city of Atlanta, city of San Francisco was attacked, their transportation system, they couldn't charge customers on public buses and trains or anything for a few days at a time. That's when things get public. It's time that makes the difference there. And then 5, pick a framework that covers people, process, and technology. We personally think that NIST is going to become like gap accounting. It's not perfect, but it's a standard to stick to. And once you pick a standard, you can actually have conversations with a customer around a cybersecurity journey. And it's not necessarily an end destination, but it's a journey. This is what we want to strive towards. So let's start with the most critical information first. We can take baby steps. We'll make an agreement that once a year we'll do something new, and we'll get better and we'll improve as time goes on, ultimately trying to get towards this target. So finally here, we get to the exciting part. We get to the pitch. So with new customers, you want to start with bundling. How do you bundle your solutions? And this is the main difference that we see in a cybersecurity sale, specifically with managed service providers, is that there's a stark difference between selling to new customers and selling to current customers. With new customers, a lot of MSPs are bundling in advanced security features into their standard offering. So we would definitely recommend doing something like that with new customers. And you can tie however you want to bundle things. You can tie that back to the discovery and protecting that information that the end customer cares about most. And then finally, stack. You understand their current environment, so you're recommending the right solution for that environment. And pricing and how you package and how you bundle, really, really important here. And that's an area that we can help out as well. And then with current customers, it revolves around education. So we hear a lot that how can I go out and how can I sell to a customer that I've been working with for 10 years and tell them that my price just went up by $20 a user because we need to implement this new advanced technology solution, where one, they don't understand the threat, and there's probably many situations where they think that you're already protecting them from all of these things. So educating them on, first of all, what their current security posture is, and when you sold that to them, that was the best solution for that time. but ransomware has evolved. Business email compromise has changed over the last 5 years, and things along those lines. So educating them on their posture, how the technology has changed, and how everything has evolved since they were originally sold the solution. And then trust and expertise. You as an MSP are the trusted advisor for their business. So they trust you to make the best decisions for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be working with you. For current customers, it revolves around education, trust, and expertise. So here I have, this is an example slide of sort of how Skout packages their products. So Skout offers email protection, Office 365 monitoring, and endpoint protection. And then we offer those three together as a work from home security bundle. And then we have our more advanced security offerings, network security monitoring and log security monitoring. I don't want to dive too deep into the technology here. That's not the aim of this webinar. But this is a sort of a good format to lay out, and you could do things in a good, better, best, a bronze, silver, gold package, or anything like that, and couple it with your other services. So now a little bit about Skout here is so if you take all of those solutions here, this is sort of the delivery of our solutions. So you take all those products on the previous page, push that all through a unified single pane solution, go to market training and tools like we're doing here today, remote management and 24/7 SOC, pass all of that through MSPs to ultimately deliver all of our solutions to SMBs, giving them a comprehensive security stack and pushing back that recurring revenue and gross margin to our MSP partners. And what we've found is that especially over the last few months, small and medium businesses are the backbone of the U.S. economy, and without managed service providers, they would be in really, really bad shape right now. So Skout, of course, appreciates all the work that everybody on this call is doing. So here we dive a little bit into Skout's dashboard, the visibility. Everything purchased from Skout is available on this single pane of glass. You can look at email protection, endpoint protection, network security monitoring, log security monitoring, logs from O365. You'll be able to force password resets, block certain applications, and things along those lines. And then finally, why we're here today is the sales support. We have a ton of experience on the go-to-market side selling to small and medium businesses, so we are here to help. And we have a portal. All the products are in one place. All the pricing is there. All of these materials that you see here, the one-pagers on each product are all co-brandable. And then, speaking of co-branding, you'll see there on the top right that the cyber health checkup, the scoring rubric. We also have prospecting worksheets for specific verticals. You see the finance one there, and we have healthcare, real estate, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. But that'll give the sales team tools so they can go out and sit on a customer site and talk to them specifically about the compliances that they need to adhere to for their specific business. We got things on New York Shield, CCPA, and then right there in the middle, it was probably our most successful thing that we've made during this pandemic, but the remote worker security guidelines. This was getting shared all over LinkedIn. We were co-branding this with folks, regardless of partner status, just to get the information out there and help out the MSP community. So here we are, Skout. Skout, I love flywheel loops. Our whole executive team loves them. But Skout goes off the mantra: build, find, convince, enable, and support. So we start off by building solutions that we feel are right for MSPs and giving them insight into small and medium business needs. So then we help MSPs to find new customers, and we help them build demand and awareness with partner marketing platform and rebranded and customized content. Then we help those MSPs convince those end customers through tools like today. Then we enable those MSPs to deliver that service and deliver it easily and become a security company themselves. And then finally follow up with the support through 24/7 SOC delivering technical support for those SMBs. And then the feedback that we get from that support helps us to build new products for MSPs. So then finally here, here's our partner program. Seeing as we've been in the MSP channel for about 1.5 years, we developed our first partner program at the beginning of last year, and it's evolved since then. So we're delivering a lot of the things you'll see with an MSP partner program, with NFR, sales training, deal reg, dedicated account manager. But we're also launching our partner advisory board. Being as we used to be a direct business, we are still getting a lot of leads from direct customers. In fact, we just referred one over yesterday to one of our partners. So there's a few unique things in here, and seeing as this is our first partner program that we've developed, I would love everybody's feedback on this, on how we can improve it. What are some unique things that you're getting from other partners or other vendors that you work with, and how we can improve this and make it better for the community. And then finally, what I will close on is that we love MSPs so much that we bought the URL, welovemsps.com. It redirects to getscout.com. But yeah, we love MSPs so much that we bought the URL. And I wanted everybody on the call here today to know that it's very important to us that we're good stewards to the MSP community, and that we're helping MSPs in any way that we can, helping them grow their business. And that's not necessarily by buying our products. If you have a security issue, do not hesitate to call us. Do not hesitate to reach out to me and call our SOC, regardless of partner status. Please reach out anytime you have a security issue. If you need help going to market, we're happy to help out. And if anybody wants to reach me, they can reach me at mike@scoutsecure.com, shoot me a message on LinkedIn, or reach out to me anywhere you can find me, and I'm happy to help. And we got Jeff's wonderful face back, and happy to answer any questions people have.
Yeah, cool. Hey, Mike, are there any of those tools that you were showing that that those that are watching on can get, download? Do they go through, like, what's the next best step? Because there was a lot of good sales tools that I saw that you had in there.
Yes, so
what do they do to get access to those?
Our partner portal, the only requirement to get access to our partner portal, where everything is that you are an MSP. And we verify that manually. We make sure the URL matches. The last thing we want is end customers of our partners getting access to the portal, because we do have pricing in there. So that's a manual process to get approval there. But if you go to partners.getscout.com, you can submit your information, and we usually approve it within an hour or two. And once you're in there, there's sales tools, that scoring rubric. We actually have an interactive tool that right from the portal, you can put your logo on it, put your email address, your contact information, and spits it out as a nice one-pager for you to send over to your customers.
So, question for you on that scoring tool, which is pretty cool on that, of being able to use something like that, a methodology that's already put together. It starts to drive the need in certain areas there. Does all of that end up happening manually in the sales process? Are you going through and you're circling of where they're at? Are you just asking questions on that? Is there a technical part of that someone's going through and doing that? How do you recommend that works?
So there's twofold. You can do it right in the portal, and it will deliver a printable PDF. Or you can, I'm guessing some people are starting to go back to on-site meetings, or will be soon. So there is that will be some manual math there, but you can just bring a printout and do it there. But the questions are they're fairly simple. Like for two-factor authentication, 1 through 3 is that we have two-factor authentication, or we don't have two-factor authentication. We have it, but not everybody uses it, or it's mandatory policy and everybody uses it. Like that's the 1, 2, 3. So it doesn't dive too technical, and you can have the conversation with a business person.
Well, and I actually found that in my MSP business, that I did a lot of it, very, very similar type of structure in selling managed services, going back a ways, so that there wasn't so much of a cybersecurity. That was just one component, and we called it security at the time
Yeah.
with it. But it was one component of the managed services package. I did everything, and I think it actually, in a lot of ways, gave me the leg up on others that were competing. Is that I did everything that was just manually right there in front of them. That I didn't have to say, hey, you know what? Can I install something on your systems?
Yeah.
Go through all that process, and people from a business sense really get it there. Let me jump to some of the questions. Mike was asking here, different Mike. Unfortunately, despite conversations, webinars, emails, scoring, etc., clients are still reluctant to do anything. They quote unquote haven't been burned yet. Is this the usual excuse, and they will take their, or is the usual excuse and they will take their chances? It's very frustrating. Any additional ideas are appreciated from you of how do I overcome that I haven't been yet?
Yeah, so I mean, it's that's very, very common, but it's an issue more around there's never. I like to tell my team there's no such thing as a pricing objection. There's a value objection, and I always give the example of if you have you want to go out and buy a car, your budget's $20,000, and the dealer says to you, well, I have a car for $30,000. You're going to say no, but if they tell you it's a brand new special edition Ferrari, you're probably going to find $30,000 because it's a great deal. So it generally comes down to them not seeing the value, and it's very similar to an insurance sale or wearing a seatbelt. The majority of people do not get in accidents in their car on a regular basis, but yet everybody still wears a seatbelt because they see the value in it and they understand the impact of what can happen if they don't. And with life insurance, the majority of people have life insurance, but they don't buy you can't buy life insurance after you die. So it's important to try to show the value ahead of time, show the impact of threats and similar businesses. And you always want to avoid selling on FUD, on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But if businesses don't understand the impact, and the reason they don't understand the impact is because the only breaches you hear about are like Sony and major cities getting breached. You don't hear about the small business right down the road that got breached because, one, they probably don't report it to the FBI, and two, it's not a good enough news story that somebody got held for ransom for $20,000 at their 10-person dentistry office. So bringing to light some of those situations, and then the people that we get that do get breached that are small businesses, the first thing they always say is, I never thought I would be a target. But these organizations, these bad actors, they're operating like regular businesses, and they have people that have quotas that they have to deliver ransomware to enough people. So they're starting to get very sophisticated, and they're targeting smaller businesses because they can attack them en masse, and they know that they're vulnerable.
Well, and I think you actually added something in there, and if anyone out there is not doing this, then you really have to, especially if you are in agreement that they need the protection that you're selling, is that if someone declines, then you've got, I can't remember exactly of how you called it, but we call it the decline of service letter or email, of where you're actually getting them to sign and understand that if they get hit in these certain areas, is kind of the angle that you took, that you're not responsible for it because you've warned them and they're not protected for it.
Yep.
And when you get someone to actually sign it, what you see is from a reaction standpoint, and this is particularly from a customer, you're not going to get a prospect necessarily to sign this because you're not taking care of their systems anyway. Yep. But from a customer side of it, they actually take you a lot more seriously when you're signing up, when they're having to read and sign off on something saying that they're not going to be protected in these certain areas.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at certain things like compliancy, like HIPAA compliancy requires you to store logs for, I think it's 7 years, pediatrics is 10 years. Veterinary clinics are actually susceptible to HIPAA compliance if they are writing prescriptions for like opioids for dogs or something, because a human has to sign off on that. So especially when you're dealing with a compliance scenario, that they're declining service that they would actually need to be in compliance, they'll be a lot more reluctant to put something on paper that they were aware and chose not to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a matter of where a lot of people would just write it off as something that, you know what, they're just trying to sell me something, make more money. And we all do that in certain ways if someone doesn't present it right. But if it really is critical in managing their network and you get them to sign it, and you're not doing it in just some slimy sales trick or something like that, that you're trying to trick them into something because you're not, then that's one of the most effective ways to at least get them to take it seriously, and where they're not just saying, nah, I'm not interested. Of the whole, no, I'm not interested is fine until they have to sign something. And then now they start asking a lot more questions, which is where you want them to be, is asking those questions of, well, tell me exactly of why I'm having to sign this. I haven't had to sign anything before with it. And I agree 100% of what you're saying there with the Ferrari comparison with the car, is that I say that with our sales team all the time here, is that, yeah, you're getting the answer that says, hey, I don't have the budget for that. All they're really saying is, I don't value with what you're saying, because you know, if I'm putting in front of someone and saying, hey, for $100, I'm going to give you 100 hot sales leads, you'd find the $100, even if you had zero in your budget and everyone was telling you couldn't spend a dime more.
Yep.
You'd figure out how to get that, and you'd make a good pitch. They just don't value it if they're coming back and saying, or they don't have the authority, which hopefully you're actually talking with the people that have authority to make the decisions.
Yeah, the good old BANT-type criteria.
Exactly. All right, some questions about the Skout tools that came in. Maxim was asking, your website has many security products and layers. Are they your own, and have your company developed all of them, or are you reselling some technologies?
Yeah, so what we found when we were building out our tool set was there are a lot of really good tools out there, and you look at something like endpoint. There are a ton of endpoint products out there. Some are better than others. Some are evolving technology. Some are signature based. Some are behavioral based. So what Skout does is we actually go out and look for best of breed technologies. So for example, for endpoint we use Silence. So we do have some underlying technology with something like Office 365, which we just split off from our traditional log monitoring solution. That was developed in-house. There is no underlying technology, but for SIEM, it's difficult to go out and try to build your own SIEM. So we do use underlying technology, but we're in a constant evaluation phase of what's best in breed. And then we've developed our own IP from data pipeline perspective, from storage, from correlation and AI for our SOC. So we put a lot of those technologies together, and then gave a single point to reference all of your security from that. And if Maxim wants to delve into it further, we can go into we can jump on another call or with anybody here. And talk about what the actual underlying technology is, where's the IP, what we've developed ourselves, and all those things.
Barb was asking as a follow-up, what SIEM do you use?
So right now we use FortiSIEM, but we're constantly evaluating what we're using, and I'm sure that can and may evolve in the future.
What's the advantage of using when you're going out there and evaluating these, and you've got some of your tools, some ones that you're going out there, what's the strategic advantage for the MSP versus going individually to each of those companies?
Yeah, so I mean, there's certainly buying power in working with one organization that has a much larger footprint with that vendor. The other side of it is that there's cross correlation, obviously anonymized data, and all those security things, being we're a security company. But we can actually start to look at specific use cases and cater our AI and machine learning in a certain way based on common threats that managed service providers are seeing. And that's not only across their customers, but but it's across all customers, across all MSPs, that we can actually look at the data in aggregate and start to look at trends and things like that. But I mean, the other main difference is you can go out and find some good email security, find some good endpoint security, find a good SIEM, good IDS, and managing them all in separate consoles is very difficult. But putting them all in one place where you can actually look at, hey, we saw this security incident, we saw this person come onto the network, and then we had a file downloaded here, and it all happened after business email compromise. And to tie all that together with a SOC analyst and be able to step back and see what actually happened is extremely valuable.
Cool. Yeah, good deal. Some more questions here. Chris is asking, does Skout integrate with RMM tools such as ConnectWise, Autotask, et cetera?
Yeah, so we do have an integration with ConnectWise, a two-way ticket integration that will close it on both sides. And we have Autotask and ServiceNow are coming within the quarter.
Cool. All right. Let me see a few more here. Colm was asking, he's joking a little bit, saying, why does your partner portal require me to use a password of 30 characters or less? He's just
I don't know.
The bigger question was, do you work with partners in Canada?
We do. We actually have one of our top performing partners is based out of Canada.
Awesome. And then another one here from Adam. So this is an interesting one here. I'll read this through. I've thought of simulating a virtual attack in real time with prospects recently where you can show them what can happen behind the scenes. Do you know if that exists or if there's a vendor who offers something like what I'm describing? I feel like people need to see to believe. So if you're able to show them a real simulation where they cannot do their jobs effectively, it would be amazing. Now,
yeah,
maybe two parts of that is that one, is that a solution that's out there that you've seen? And then second one, from a selling perspective, as we're talking about that, what are ways that you can recreate that in ways that maybe aren't doing this too?
Yeah, so there's two ways, and I agree that once a customer sees how hackers are hacking and why they hack and understand it a bit more, that it's not the guy in the basement anymore. It's very sophisticated people that and sophisticated businesses that understand what's going on. So we have there's two things. One, we have a cyber kill chain graphic and slide that we have in our sales deck that we give to MSPs for their own customers. And what that'll do is outline how a typical attack happens, how they come in through the email, they get access to people's identity through the email, sending out the beacon, and it sort of walks through in really cool, like concentric ring style, how the attack happens. The other side of it is we've developed a webinar toolkit for our partners, so they can go out and they can deliver a webinar either with us or without us. We prefer with us because it's exciting and fun, and we like to see people's reactions. But where we actually have a SOC analyst, we have a video and we have a talk track that goes along with the video with the timing of when to talk about things. And you simply play it during the webinar, and they actually walk through how hackers will download tools for email compromise, and shows them going in, they get those credentials, how they will set up forwarding rules, and how they'll delete the emails within the user's inbox, and how they'll capture specific emails with specific keywords, and actually walk through how to set up the tool. It's terrifying to see, but we do have a tool for that. Doing one live, the difficulty of that is you don't want to do a simulated attack on a production network. So doing that usually would require like a sandbox environment. But we'd be happy to, if an MSP has a sandbox environment, walk them through how to set that up and how to do it themselves and do it live for people.
Oh, that's awesome. And good points of that, of, you know, trying to do that. Anything that I've seen of doing this, of where you're doing it in a sandbox environment, you're not doing it on simulated on a live network there.
Yeah.
That can freak people out too. You definitely don't want to do it of, say, telling people, and I don't think this is what Adam suggested, but you don't want to say, hey, I did a test of hacking your network and here's the results.
Yep.
That freaks people out too.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I know IT of where you get the brain of going with that and thinking, oh, hey, that would actually convince people.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't if you do it without them knowing. It just freaks them out more than anything.
And it also can be perceived as a threat to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, if I don't buy from you, then you're going to do that to me.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And the video and the webinar toolkit that's also on our portal. So if anybody wants to register for the portal, they're welcome to, and the video and everything's on there.
Yeah. So I brought up on my screen the partners.getscout.com/register. I think that's what James dropped in there he's hiding under your name there in the in the chat. Is there any reason why it seems like it's free to be able to register there as a partner? Is that correct? Is there any reason why anyone on this webinar would not register to be a partner?
Second prize is a call from my sales team.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about it there too, is that you've got all these tools. Becoming a partner, from everything I can tell, it doesn't obligate you to anything, and you've got these tools, you've got all the stuff, a lot of cool stuff that you were showing here. Then why not of doing it?
Yeah.
You've got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that does require a purchase is access to our dashboard, but the dashboard is useless unless you bought something because there's no data.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good deal. And I know we posted up mike@scoutsecure.com if someone wants to get you directly with that. Mike, anything else that you've got for us today here before we wrap up?
I'm good. Just want to reiterate, if anybody needs help from a security or go-to-market standpoint, we want to help the community. As the community grows, we ultimately grow as a company. So as long as we can help MSPs, we know we'll be successful. So any questions, any concerns, any incidents, reach out and we'll help out.
All right, here's the one favor that I've got from you is that I need something of Skout on my wall behind me. I can't be taunting you with the Datto.
That's why I screwed up in the beginning. It just says Datto so big on my screen.
That was actually from our boot camp event there. That was one of the corners of our boxing ring that we had.
Oh, that's cool.
There, and so I would just grab stuff there. But if you get something for me from Skout, I'll drop it on the wall behind me.
Done.
As well. So make sure to send that over.
Good deal.
Cool. Hey, this has been awesome, Mike. Thanks for sharing this. Everyone get signed up on the partner portal there. I'll give it one more time, partners.getscout.com. And thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it.
You got it. Have a good one, Jeff.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye, everybody.